Judging you right now. I mean, honestly. So we have a special guest in the studio.
And Kawanda, can we shout out Kawanda?
I'm sorry, Selena.
What's up, Kawanda? Our events brand manager, who's back in the hizzy house. And now you can proceed.
You could have just said it. We have a special guest on air today.
I don't want to mispronounce his name. You guys know how I am with names.
It's hard to mispronounce Carlos.
Yeah, it is.
Nah, she will do it.
Yeah.
Carlos.
Michael.
His name is Carl.
I know, right? I really
Michael. Carlos. That's what I said.
Carolos? No? Okay.
Cereal.
Rolo.
As Selena says, he's responsible for Obama winning Virginia, apparently. So if you voted for Obama, you wanted Obama to win. Selena says he won Obama Virginia with his bare hands. He went out there and he walked people to the polls.
I went down to Virginia. I went down to Richmond, and I beat the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Violence always works when it comes to voting.
Does.
Yes,
absolutely. You know what? As a campaign advisor, I can definitely say I do not endorse violence. And I cannot. I am on the record. I cannot endorse violence, and we did not use any sort of violent tactic to get the president reelected. We won it fair and square. Mitt Romney, you can cry in your sleep.
Definitely. And speaking about crying in your sleep, Mitt Romney, Stanley, won't you be breaking down the 2012 presidential election, the electorate, and everything that changed and happened?
Yes, including something I found out a couple of days ago from a friend and had confirmed in the media about Mitt Romney that makes me think that, wow, Carlos said something to me the other day about Mitt Romney feeling it was divine purpose for him to win the election.
What the hizzy?
I think you might have been right about that after I heard what he did, and I'm going to share it with you guys later.
He was shell shocked when
he
really
was. Yes,
he lost. He was shell shocked. He could not believe that he was nowhere near close to even reaching a basic majority in the electorate. The entire campaign, and I love Jon Stewart for this. He just hit it down, like he hit the nail on the head on this one. The Republicans now, from 2008 to 2012, have been living in this bizarre alternative universe where their brand of politics is what America needs. But something that people don't get to realize is that yes, it's true. America is a center right country, but after Bush, and after some major cataclysms in the economy, the country has moved a little bit more to the center.
Yes, and then I'm so sorry. Like I'm telling Stanley to turn my headphones up, but yeah.
And he was turning.
Yeah, you were giving some major signals there. I thought you were in the airport.
I know, but
well, he was talking about America being a center right.
Yes,
kind of. Governmental. He's like, yeah. But after Bush, I'm like, I don't think so. No, I don't vote based on faith or religion or conservatism.
Yes.
I vote based on social issues.
Do. I believe that it was God's plan for Romney to win, and
you know what? Look,
God was wrong then.
God's never wrong. You were wrong, stupid Christians.
No, I've said on a number of occasions, I feel like I have a divine purpose. So I can relate to that. I mean, he just feels like, okay, number one, he didn't even write a concession speech. So that shows that he was really, really confident that he was going to win, or maybe just delusional.
There were many things that he didn't do. He didn't write a concession speech, but then he also had this, like, the website for him that was just like, president-elect.
President-elect Romney.
Yeah, and they published it. Like, you're supposed to keep that as a draft until you actually win. They published it so people got screen grabs of it, and though it's gone now, there's screen grabs out there.
I have a very good friend who worked for the Romney campaign, and
wow, you guys are still friends.
Yeah,
that's so nice of you. No,
yeah, he was a great kid. He was.
Before
he turned to the dark side.
Luke, I am your father.
Oh my God! You just did an impression.
I did an impression.
That was a really good impression.
Oh, thank you. I can't do great impressions. My girlfriend, today yesterday I tried to do an Irish accent and it came off Jamaican.
Wow. But that was a good one. So, but I'm glad you have a Republican friend.
I have a Republican friend.
Me too.
I used to be a Republican, actually. I know.
So was Stanley.
Stanley.
Yeah, he voted for Bush
twice.
Yeah.
My parents voted for Bush.
Once for Bush, all right?
The other time you couldn't. You were too underage.
You guys are racist. Republicans are the way of life. And every single founding father agreed that Christianity should be in the Constitution. Every single one of them, not just one or two.
Hey, life starts at conception. Okay.
I used to think I was Republican too, and I live with my best friend from college. She is also very Republican. She was like, "Oh, I'm moving to Mexico after Obama won," and I was like, well, it's better than Canada, but whatever. But we're really good friends, and like I said, we disagree in a lot of major things. But she's usually more of a fiscally conservative person as opposed to actually conservative.
But being fiscally conservative.
Hold on, guys, this is really good. It really is, but I think what else are we talking about on the show?
Oh,
I know.
I'm sitting here like, yeah, this is good stuff.
That's the quickie. We're gonna give you more of that good political stuff during the quickie later on in the show.
Yeah, that good stuff.
The victories and the defeats.
Definitely. I'll just throw mine out there because I've been waiting for this topic for so long. We're talking about women's role in hip hop. We're talking to a hip hop feminist / activist / journalist / lecturer that I had the pleasure of meeting in 2010. Her name is Rosa Clemente. She actually ran for the vice president position in the Green Party in 2008.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, really
Yes.
cool.
That's awesome.
I had no idea.
Wow.
She's a candidate for a doctorate right now. So
Not bad.
definitely
I'm
can't
excited.
wait.
And that's going to come up in the next hour, right?
Yes.
First is me. In a few minutes, actually about 7-8 minutes, we're going to be talking to Curtis Brainard about climate change or global warming. And I wanted to bring up this discussion because of the destruction that Hurricane Sandy brought to us, and not necessarily saying that Hurricane Sandy equals climate change, equals global warming, but it's something that because it's in our minds, I want to use that to our advantage and talk about something that is deeply, deeply important, and it's the way that we can heal our planet.
Can I jump in? I want to say I was so against any topic on climate change for the longest time. Every time we brought it up in the meeting, yes. No. I hate the earth. Listen, climate change is a natural thing because God says so. Scientists are wrong. No, but in all seriousness, I just thought it was a boring topic. I thought that it wasn't relevant. And then Hurricane Sandy, a Category 1 hurricane, pretty much effed us up in New York.
It really did.
There's no Jersey Shore. There is no Jersey Shore.
It's just Jersey now.
So, what I said, scientists would never say, this is proof because you need kind of a lot of data over many, many, many years. Oh, yeah. So, for example, you can't tell if Hurricane Sandy was caused by climate change until, for example, 40 years from now or so, when you have enough data to say, yes, that surge, that strength, that massiveness of it was caused. Mm-hmm. So scientifically speaking, it really can be boring because usually they're like, I don't know, probably not.
Well, when I was pushing the topic, I wanted to take the angle of the corn and the fact that the corn crops are dying out, and that is always interesting.
No, of course it is.
No one cares about the corn,
Selena, it was just you and I with the corn.
Yeah, thank you.
I brought it
here.
Selena, that's not a good endorsement. Grandma Kwanzaa and
I brought it up with the bacon shortage because the pigs couldn't eat the corn that was not growing, and then there was a bacon shortage. So it's my daily life.
Thank you. It has a domino effect.
Did you hear now with the corn, because of the corn shortage, they're thinking about using banana as a new cash crop?
Really?
Yes. So
wow.
Yes, it's getting serious out there.
It really is serious, and we're going to talk about the seriousness.
Yeah, a lot of it. It's not just to do with water levels rising. It's a lot also to, like I said, crops drying out. So we're going to see. Curtis Brainard is going to explain it all to us. I hope so, and I'm excited for that.
Definitely.
So we're going on a quick break. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard on WHCR 90.3 FM. We'll be right back with climate change.
Hold up. Hey. Somebody bring me back the money, please. Hey. Hove on that new like how come? On my old by my old album.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Me, I make the blueprint. Came in the range. Hopped out the Lexus. Every year since I've been on that neck. Traded in a gold for the platinum Rolexes. Now a wrist smash the status of my records. Used to rock a throwback, ballin' on the corner. Now I rock a telesuit, looking like a owner. No, I'm not a Jonas, brother, I'm a grown-up. No, I'm not a virgin, I use my I move onward, the only direction. Can't be scared to fail, search of perfection. Gotta keep it fresh, girl, even when we sexin'. But don't be mad at him when it's on to the next one. Somebody bring me back the money, please. I got a million ways to get it. Shoes one. Hey, bring it back, bring it back. Now double your money and make it stack. I'm on to the next one. On to the next. I'm on to the next one. On to the next. I'm on to the next one. On to the next. I'm on to the next one. On to the next. Hold up. Somebody bring me back the money, please. The throwback jersey, cause we on to the next one. And that auto-tune, cause we on. And don't be mad, cause it's all about progression. Loiterers should be arrested. I used to drink Cristal, them seems racist. So I switch gold bottles on to that space. You gon' have another drink or you just gon' babysit.
Hi, this is Sister Virginia Cotton, and I'll take you to that place every Tuesday morning from 6 to 10 in the a.m. on the Gospel Legends program. We'll lift the Savior and take a trip down memory lane. How far back will I go? Tune in on Tuesday morning, WHCR 90.3 FM from 6 to 10 in the a.m. And don't forget the website. That's the 3Ws.WHCR.org. I'm so excited.
Thank you, Stanley. I am not a fan of that commercial. Anyway, guys, this was Let Your Voice Be Heard on WHCR 90.3 FM.
I liked it.
I did
I don't know.
Had an old school soul. I don't know, but
It's a good Sunday morning kind of commercial.
If they was playing some Mark Anthony, you would have liked it, huh?
I would have liked some Mark Anthony. I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, guys, again, this is Let Your Voice Be Heard. We're gonna be talking about climate change and the environment. So I'm very happy. My nerdy self is super excited. If you guys have any questions or comments, please call us at 212-650-6903. I am hoping to learn a lot today. I don't know about you guys, because I actually am pretty clueless about what is going on with the world and how we can help it.
I'll be taking notes.
But I think, with Hurricane Sandy, it brought back to people's mind, including my mind, the very serious concern of climate change. We remember the presidential debates. None of them brought it up. Not President Obama, not Governor Romney, none of them. They didn't mention it at all, and they didn't mention how it affects our environment and what we can do about it. So I got the sense that it didn't matter to them. And I believe that for too long, we have ignored environmentalists and climatologists who warn us of the drastic effects of climate change. And we need to start paying attention in how it can actually affect the future, not just how it affects us right now in this moment.
Yes.
As my guest will, I hope, further explain, Hurricane Sandy wasn't exactly caused by climate change, but climate change does intensify weather, and it intensifies hurricane, like in this example. And in order to fully comprehend how climate change works and what we can do about it, we need to listen to our experts. So today we are speaking with Curtis Brainard. Curtis has covered science, environment, and medical news for the Columbia Journalism Review since 2006. And he launched The Observatory, which is the Columbia Journalism Review's first full-time department dedicated to critically analyzing science coverage in the media. Hey, Curtis, are you there?
I am.
Yay, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, we're hoping to learn a whole lot from you. Are you ready?
I think I am. I'll do my best.
Patricia, you have to be extra excited being that you're a Columbia alum.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
so Columbia love, a lot of Columbia love
Columbia
here.
alum, School of Engineering,
Excellent.
08.
In good company.
Yeah, we are. We're all really smart people here. But still, I graduated with a degree in civil engineering. And while, we do talk about environmental issues, it wasn't something that I learned enough. It was like a one-class thing. Sure, go ahead, Stanley.
Yeah, well, I graduated from a SUNY with a liberal arts degree, so you guys aren't that cool, all right?
Hey. It's not a battle of the schools today, but Columbia won because it's 2 against 1. But I'm just saying. So anyway, Curtis, I want to start this, as basic as possible. And I know this is probably the silliest question, but is there a simple way that you can explain what exactly climate change and or global warming? I mean, are those two terms interchangeable? And what exactly is it? How does it manifest itself in our daily lives?
Oh, sure. Well, actually the two terms are generally interchangeable, but to serious scientists and people who follow science, there is a distinction there. I mean, climate change is the broader term, and global warming is one of the things that we're seeing as the climate changes, slow but steady increase in the global average temperature. But there are other aspects of climate change, of course, including some that are perhaps more important to Hurricane Sandy, such as sea level rise or the general effects on extreme weather. So, with Sandy, every scientist will tell you, most good science journalists will always be careful to mention that, no one single storm can be attributed to climate change. But that said, the sort of catchphrase in the industry is that Sandy fits with a lot of things that we'd expect to see in a warming world, in a world where the climate is changing. So I think that The number one factor, as I mentioned, was really sea level rise when it came to this hurricane in lower Manhattan, where you had record-setting storm surge of something like 15 feet. That was clearly aided and abetted by the fact that the sea level has gone up by almost, I think, about a whole foot in the last 100 years. There's been a tidal gauge at the Battery in Lower Manhattan for more than a century, and they've seen a full foot of sea level rise.
Wow!
So
for over a century, you said they've been a tidal gauge.
Yeah,
Wow.
down at the Battery. They've been taking these measurements for quite a while now.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's absolutely unambiguous that the sea level has risen around Lower Manhattan, and so when you have a fierce storm like Sandy, and it doesn't even really take a hurricane, but when you have such a storm, it pushes ahead of it this big surge of water, and of course that surge, is gets worse the higher the sea is. So that's one way in which it's absolutely clear that climate change contributed to the damage inflicted by Hurricane Sandy.
Okay.
I just had a question, and I just wanted to know if this was accurate or not. But I heard because the moon, we had a full moon that day, and that also contributed to the water levels being higher than usual, and that intensified the destruction of Hurricane Sandy. How true is that?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. I think it's something on the order of about a foot that the peak high tide, which follows a lunar cycle, it's the rotation of the moon around the Earth that governs the tides. And at certain points in the cycle, full moons, the tide really hits the highest it's going to be. And, the worst case scenario, which we had with Hurricane Sandy, is when a fierce storm pushing a bunch of storm surge that I described comes in right as sea is already getting that extra bump from the tides. So it's those you can kind of imagine it as layers stacked upon layers. You've got the foot of sea level rise due to climate change. You've got a few extra inches due to the tides. And then you've got this massive storm surge coming in behind it, and all of a sudden you've got, massive flooding in Lower Manhattan. It doesn't take much, unfortunately.
Wow. I mean, the way that you put it that way, it sounds like there was all these events that just got together and made this, pun intended, perfect storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. I mean, it's not unlike the book that made that term famous back in 1991 by Sebastian Junger. This was, climate change, kind of intensified in some ways Hurricane Sandy, or I should say contributed in some ways. It's not totally clear, outside of sea level rise, the ways it contributed to the hurricane. But the reason that this storm was so fierce, that it inflicted so much damage, the more proximate cause, as scientists would say, of the storm's wrath, was that it was a very unusual confluence of different weather systems, which is exactly what you had in 1991, and which is, what prompted Sebastian Junger to write that book. There were just everything that could have went wrong.
Guys, and go ahead and watch the movie with George Clooney. It's a really good movie.
By the way, right?
If you don't want to read,
dreamy.
Read the book.
Yeah. Okay. Read the book and then go watch the movie. No, I agree. I always read the book first, but the movie has a big wave on it, and it's been really awesome to watch. And it's a little scary. It's kind of fear-mongering, but hey, if it'll make you change your mind about climate change, then go ahead.
Definitely.
Be afraid. So, let's not do a little fear-mongering here, but can you give us some examples of how exactly climate change, I mean, you mentioned rising sea levels, but how does it affect us in New York City other than, coastal flooding? Is there other symptoms, for lack of a better term, of climate increasing, in over the years in New York City, for example?
The other, kind of obvious culprit here is warmer sea surface temperatures, warmer water. The warmer the water is, the more moisture you have in the atmosphere above the water, and the more energy. Hurricanes, they feed on warm energy over the seas. They're essentially sucking up all that warm water and using it to fuel their destructive spiral. And so the warmer the water you have, the more intense, it's speculated. There's a lot of kind of scientific debate about this, but it's speculated that the warmer the water, the more intense the hurricane is going to be, and also the more moisture it's going to have to drop over land, more rainfall. So you get higher wind speeds and more rain. I should mention that this is a little bit subject to debate, but this is fairly certain. And in the case of Hurricane Sandy, we were dealing with waters out in the North Atlantic and Mid-Atlantic that were unusually warm. And a lot of that, most of that had nothing to do with climate change and more to do with ocean currents and ocean circulation and sunshine on the water. But scientists out at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Colorado estimate that somewhere on the order of 5 to 10% of that additional warming was due to climate change. So the seas in the Atlantic were about 5 degrees warmer than usual, and about a degree of that was attributable to climate change. So, and again, this can lead to the idea this can probably lead to a fiercer hurricane and certainly more rainfall.
Right.
Curtis, my name is Carlos. I'm kind of new to the whole to the team right now.
We have a little guest here today. Go ahead, Carlos. Ask away.
I work for the Obama campaign, and we were kind of mulling around the idea of climate change. And something that I realized was that it's just not part of the conversation. There's a lot of skepticism on climate change, and as an expert, why do you think there's this level of skepticism from the public? What do you think attributes to it? I know there is some division in the scientific community about the causes of climate change, and some scientists argue that it's that it's just a pattern that the Earth tends to warm up over time, and it goes into its natural corrections. But why do you think there is such a debate among the public about climate change?
Well, maybe let me just start by mentioning that actually polls have showed recently over about the last 6 months that after it kind of goes up and it goes down, right? In around about 2007, this is when the big report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, came out. The last report came out. It was a few years after Hurricane Katrina. It was a few years after Al Gore released An Inconvenient Truth. Public acceptance of the problem was way up. But then you had a bunch of problems. You had failures domestically, internationally, so it kind of crashed after that, public understanding and acceptance of the problem. Now it's starting to inch back upward, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there's still way too much skepticism, more than there should be out in the public. Part of that is simply just because climate change is a very slow drip problem. It's outside of weather events like Hurricane Sandy, it's not really something you can look out your window and see, and for this reason, it also kind of defies the standards of journalism. You're never going to wake up and see a headline, "Oh, global warming happened yesterday." It's so slow moving. I mean, it is happening all the time. So it's really kind of hard to communicate that to a public that is distracted by a lot of other issues, from the economy, national security, you name it. And there has been a really fierce misinformation campaign, disinformation campaign coming from the right, conservative industrial interests who have spent a lot of time and money trying to push back against the scientific consensus.
And that way that you presented it, that it's not something you can look out your window and see. I think it's a lot of the problem with people not really understanding it or caring it sometimes. Again, everybody, this is Let Your Voice Be Heard on WHCR 90.3 FM. We're talking to Curtis Brainard. He is a science writer for the Columbia Journalism Review. If you have any questions, any comments, please call us up. Don't be shy at 212-650-6903. And now Selena had a question for you, Curtis.
Yes, I do have a question. Okay, so I want to know, and I just want to say this before I even get to the question. Like, I recycle all the time, right?
Aww.
So, and I'm a big advocate for, recycling, planting trees, but I want to know how much of a role and how much of a correlation is there between recycling and other daily activities that we're told help the planet, and or can this really, prevent climate change or, the direction of our atmosphere just moving towards like pollution,
warming up,
more warming and
yeah.
Just something that's more hazardous for the atmosphere.
Well, recycling it doesn't have much to do with climate change, but obviously there are other things.
Okay,
Individual behaviors.
You just made us feel so bad. I thought we were helping the earth.
Yeah, that's what I was
you
told.
Absolutely
Like, that's
are.
the
I do not mean
perception.
to denigrate recycling in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
It's an issue that is related in the sense that these are all larger issues about sustainability and the conservation of natural resources. So I absolutely encourage everybody to recycle. But in terms of, climate change, what climate change is driven by is greenhouse gas emissions, mostly carbon dioxide emissions. So, on a personal level, what everybody talks about is reducing your carbon footprint. That means driving less, making your home more energy efficient, paying to offset the costs of the carbon emissions of your airplane flight, something like that. There are a bunch of ways to reduce your carbon footprint. Although I would say that while these individual measures can add up to a significant effect, what's really called for in terms of addressing climate change is a more systemic change. It's the decarbonization of our economy is how, scientists and politicians talk to it. And unfortunately, it goes pretty significantly above and beyond what any one person can do. I mean, this is something that needs to be addressed not only at the national level here in the United States, but internationally as well. I mean, it's going to require a pretty dramatic restructuring of our energy economy to deal with this problem, and that's not something that people can really do. That's something that governments need to do.
All right, so we got to urge our policymakers to take it into account and make it serious issue about it. So
exactly.
We got to go to a short break. Curtis, can you hold on for a few minutes while we go to a break and come right back, and then maybe 10 more minutes? All right. Thank you so much, guys. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard on WHCR 90.3 FM. We'll be right back in a few minutes.
한 잔의 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 너는 선어해 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선어해 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선어해 밤이 오면 심장이 터져버리는 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 성숙해 보이지만 볼 땐 노는 여자 이때다 싶으면 묶었던 머리 푸는 여자 가렸지만 웬만한 노출보다 야한 여자 그런 감각적인 여자 나는 선어해 점잖아 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 선어해 내가 되면 완전 미쳐버리는 선어해 근육보다 사상이 울퉁불퉁한 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까
And we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM WHCR, the voice of Harlem. And this is Stanley, your favorite engineer. We were doing a gangman style dance. No, it wasn't me.
You're our only engineer.
Carlos was. Carlos was clearly dancing during the break.
I only say the sexy lady part.
I tried to do the cat daddy once and I twisted my ankle, so I stopped dancing after that.
Moving on.
Yes, exactly. Moving on because my dancing skills are atrocious. Curtis. What's up, my man?
He's still there. He's still
I know, right? Just
Still
checking.
there.
Yes, Curtis. I am going to ask you a question because I apparently missed this class during my liberal arts degree in college. And obviously, you guys haven't. Let me tell you, I'm joking. I don't have a liberal arts degree. I have liberal arts degrees are real degrees as well, but I don't have that. Anyways, Curtis. Just for people like me who may not necessarily know what it is, could you define, in like its simplest term, greenhouse gas emission, and also. Everyone's talking about these hybrid cars and these electric cars and all these other fuel-efficient cars. Like, are those cars or like those kind of things supposed to help the environment or make the air cleaner somehow, or is that just a ploy to make me spend money on a battery-operated car?
So greenhouse gas emissions, greenhouse gases are just about 10 or maybe up to a dozen different gases that essentially create a heat trapping effect in the atmosphere. They allow the solar radiation to come in, warm the Earth, but where a lot of that radiation would get kind of re-radiated back into space, the greenhouse gases create a sort of blanket and trap it in our atmosphere. And the most significant is carbon dioxide. After that, methane. After that, you have, hydrofluorocarbons, chlorofluorocarbons, whole class of gases that do this. But the main one that we're concerned about in terms of climate change is carbon dioxide. And in terms of your question about electric cars, there's actually been a bunch of research about this recently, and yes, generally, in fact, I would say almost always in the United States, driving an electric car will help reduce your carbon footprint. But it is important to pay attention to the type of electricity mix in your specific region. And so basically the type of electricity that's charging up your electric vehicle. So in a region where most of the electricity is coming from coal, which is the dirtiest type of fuel and produces the most carbon emissions, your electric car is not going to reduce your carbon footprint as much as it would in a region where most of the electricity is coming from hydroelectric or even nuclear or, natural gas even, which is a lot cleaner than coal. So it's important to pay attention to the regional energy mix. And there have been a couple studies saying, in the regions with the dirtiest energy mixes, where they're getting just about 100% of their energy from coal burning, electrics can be no better than the best standard engines, the most efficient, gas-fired engines. But that's only the most efficient gas-fired engines. There are only, half a dozen cars in that class, and only one or two of them is in the top-selling cars in America. So
like the Prius.
almost always, electric cars will reduce your carbon footprint.
All right, Curtis. Two more questions because you kind of caught my attention with some things you said. The first one, which I can't believe I am actually going brain dead on this occasion. No, I did not forget. I misremembered. You need to know the difference.
Okay? Misremembered.
Yes.
I like that coin phrase.
Liberal arts degree working for you.
That's right. Woot, woot. So yeah, you mentioned coal, and I know Obama's talking about clean coal. So when in like 30 seconds or less, please explain it. If that is even real, because last I heard it isn't real. And you mentioned natural gas, and I know that with the organization that I work for, we are highly against hydraulic fracturing, which is how you get the natural gases out. And maybe the natural gas might be cleaner than electricity or anything else like that. But isn't the process of retrieving that natural gas just as bad for the environment as coal or say pouring a bottle of oil into the ocean?
Well, let me take the first one first because it's a little bit easier. Clean coal is the idea of an advanced carbon capture technology. Basically, when you burn the coal, you capture the carbon dioxide coming out of the smokestacks, and then you inject it into underground formations where it'll stay, the word is sequestered, for, ideally millennia, and You're right. It doesn't really exist. And probably never will. Coal will probably disappear from our energy mix before we really needed to get this technology up and running. There have been a number of test plants.
Thank you.
Around the country. And there have been a number of test plants overseas, in Europe, Australia, other places. And they've worked at a small scale to a limited extent. But getting this up to the, developing carbon capture and storage at scale, it's really kind of a pipe dream. It's unfeasible for cost reasons. It's unfeasible for logistics and materials reasons. So
it's just politicians talking.
So Obama lied to me.
Politicians talking, absolutely. One of the things I would have loved to have seen a journalist do during this campaign is really press Romney and Obama on just what they think clean coal means and whether, how practical they think it is.
That's why I voted for Rick Santorum, because he believes in God.
Oh, God, I hope you did not, actually.
You never know with Stanley.
There were so many big words, but I'm learning so much from you, Curtis. These are things that I had even no idea. I really didn't. I hear politicians the most talk about it, which is kind of sad because they're absolutely no experts. So while I want them to tackle it, they don't know anything either. That's what the impression that I'm getting from what you're telling me.
Don't they have policy advisors?
Unfortunately.
You should be a policy advisor, Curtis.
Don't they have someone advising them or briefing them on the topic?
That's going over to the dark side.
No politics.
Fair enough.
But what the frack is frack?
The frack is frack. Well, okay. So the impacts of fracking, kind of to be determined. There are, of course, widespread allegations of water pollution, well contamination, impacts on public health. I'm not totally convinced by a lot of these claims. But that is only because we haven't really had enough study of these things. One of the things that really does worry me is that the fracking boom that's underway in the United States took off long before regulators or anybody really understood what was happening. So scientists, public health officials, regulators, they're all behind the curve on this. We started drilling wells across the country and fracking without having any idea of what the environmental impact would be, without any idea of what the public health impact would be. Now, I got to say, I'm a little bit, from the science I've seen so far, I don't think that the water pollution, the public health impacts are quite as bad as they're made out to be. But I will say that while, natural gas is much, much cleaner than coal, as I said, it's a much, better form of electricity, it's still not a great form of electricity. It's still not going to deliver the kinds of reductions in carbon dioxide emissions that are going to make a real difference in terms of climate change. A lot of people argue that they will. It's often referred to as a quote-unquote bridge fuel. It's what will get us from coal and oil to wind and solar. But a lot of climate scientists are skeptical that it'll do that fast enough to avoid, some of the worst forecast impacts of climate change. So that's really what I worry about with natural gas. I do also worry about the water pollution, the impacts on public health. But it's certainly
the lesser evil, kind of.
Yeah,
for now.
That's exactly right. It's the lesser evil, but still an evil. So that has to be taken into consideration.
Decision.
It's like going out to vote in November.
Yeah. I just wanted to, for those of you listening who are wondering what the frack meant, hydraulic fracturing is actually the process that they're using to release the natural gases, and they drill into the ground and then pump millions of gallons of water filled with a cocktail of chemicals to kind of crack the rocks apart and release the gases. So what people say is that water filled with chemicals, it destroys the ground under it. It releases this gas, which contaminates any water supply next to it, puts methane and other chemicals, benzenes inside the water, which makes your water flammable if you light it with a match and it's running. You can get chemical burn. It's been seen to cause brain lesions, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not going to go too much into that. I just want to explain, from my understanding, what hydrofracking was. Selena?
Yeah, it's really unhealthy. And I remember you showed me a YouTube video of someone running water from
We're
their
YouTube
faucet.
scientists in here.
No. It was really fascinating. Someone was running water from their faucet, and they lit a match next to the water, and it exploded. And Stanley was like, "This is hydrofracking, Selena." And that's how I got an understanding of what hydrofracking was.
And Curtis, is that like a lot of fear mongering? Is that something that is happening a lot, like you said, or is it a real concern?
Flaming faucets, not to be the anti-environmentalist all of a sudden in the room, but flaming faucets have been around as long as people have been drilling wells. There is a lot of methane in the ground naturally, and that's not necessarily a product of hydrofracking. Now, hydrofracking can, make that worse, but methane has been creeping into wells since the 19th century. As long as people have been drilling wells and doing indoor plumbing, this has been happening. So I'm not sure that hydrofracking has made it a lot worse. I mean, I'll say my issue with natural gas is less hydrofracking than drilling in general. Drilling in general is a destructive process, and it can lead to lots of contamination because of the chemicals involved, because of the wastewater produced, because of the waste materials produced. So it's like hydrofracking gets a lot of the blame, but I tend to think it's not hydrofracking, it's gas drilling in general, that produces these kinds of deleterious effects. So I do worry that people don't.
They just don't understand.
Too much of the blame goes to fracking specifically, and not just drilling in general.
And Curtis, I was reading some of your articles from the Columbia Journalism Review, and you talked in one of them about the generalizations that the media makes about extreme weather. And I mean, I know we were talking about Hurricane Sandy, but I mean, this that we're talking about, these burning faucets, is blowing up water.
Yeah, it's
brings me to that.
Wild, man.
Do you think? I mean, is this kind of coverage doing more harm to environmental issues, or is it bringing it to people's attention? Because I feel like it's negative.
Can I just say something before Curtis answers? That's a great question because it brought it to my attention and made me pay attention to what's really going on.
But it scared you.
I didn't know that it wasn't true. I was like, whoa, we do not need hydrofracking.
We digest so much news. I think that's just a clear problem. Everything that is explained to us through CNN, Fox News, or even from our friends is just an overgeneralization.
Yes, Stanley.
Just feel like we have to access everything.
That's the problem with the media is it gets grossly simplified, which that's not always bad. Look, a lot of the public out there really aren't looking for the nitty gritty details, and it's just kind of important that they get the big picture. So you brought up the intensification of weather. I on my site. I always caution journalists against generalizing, okay? Because there's no theory that climate change increases or intensifies extreme weather in general.
Right.
There are trends for storms, heat waves, droughts, floods, all these things individually. And so, it doesn't really help when people say, all extreme weather is getting worse because of climate change. Because the risk there is, what if for 5 years there aren't a lot of hurricanes?
Right.
There aren't a lot of extreme weather events. Then people are going to say, oh, they were lying to us. They were deceiving us. But if you give it to them in more detail, if you explain it straight, and you say, look, it's absolutely clear that climate change has led to warmer days and warmer nights, more intense rainfall events, more droughts, probably more floods. We're not really sure about hurricanes right now. The jury's still out there. And certainly when it comes to a hurricane like Sandy, Sandy was not your average hurricane. Again, this was a confluence of 3 different weather systems.
Wow.
And whether or not such unusual confluences are going to become more common in a warming world, we have no idea. Nobody's even really asking about perfect storms like Sandy. They're just trying to get a handle on simple hurricanes, So I think it kind of behooves the media to to be a little bit more honest with people, or not so much, maybe honest is the wrong word, but just more detailed, more specific, so that, if there happens to be a lull in extreme weather events for a few years, which is entirely possible. I mean, there's so much noise in our weather system. It's such a complex system that there could be a little bit of a pause in extreme weather events, that you don't want people to then turn around and think that, scientists and the media had it all wrong back in 2012 when there was lots of extreme weather. So I think that's the risk there. But to your point, you also make
have a
good
crush on
point
your
that,
brain.
Yeah, but you also want to you don't want to get too lost in the weeds as a journalist.
Right.
You also want to explain the big picture to the public, so... you don't want to get too far into the nitty-gritty. It's really kind of a fine line, between too much information and too little. It's the constant struggle that journalists face.
I mean, I like the way that they actually sort of framed Hurricane Sandy in the media. That it wasn't. They didn't just call it Hurricane Sandy. It was Storm Surge Sandy. Or Frankenstorm Sandy.
Or Superstorm.
Or the Superstorm. Exactly. Yeah, they let you know that what you were dealing with was not just a run-of-the-mill hurricane.
Right.
Exactly.
This was something different. Yeah.
I like.
But
yeah, I actually thought the media did, for the most part, a pretty good job with Hurricane Sandy. And they quickly zeroed in on those things like sea level rise,
right,
that are absolutely clear. I mean, there's no question that sea level rise is putting us at greater risk from storms like Sandy. So you focus on those things, and that should hopefully be enough to get the public to realize that, we're kind of looking down the barrel of a gun here.
Absolutely, and I do think that Sandy is a conversation starter. I even nationally, even locally and nationally, people see the pictures of Far Rockaway. People see what happened in Jersey. They see Obama and Christie come together, and automatically they start thinking, "Wow, this is serious. This is something that we have to actually come together and kind of focus on." Anyways,
it is.
Giving me the red flag here.
No, because we're running a little bit out of time. I'm sorry to cut you off, Carlos, but
don't worry.
I'm glad that we finished on that point on the media, which is kind of where we started on Hurricane Sandy and the media, because while it was a big media hurdle, everybody talking and everybody saying all these terms and nobody understood, it did bring it back to the attention, and it brought us to us talking about it here on this show. So I really hope that people got something out of it. Curtis, I have a crush on your brain. My God. You're so...
Yes, honestly, and to be such an expert, I love the fact that you just spoke in layman terms, and we really got it. I took notes, so thank you.
We really Curtis, thank you so much. You spoke in a way that was approachable. No, you were very approachable. You used terms that we all were able to understand, and I definitely am convinced that one of the major reasons why people don't know and don't care is because they don't understand it. So I'm very, very grateful to you. So Curtis, can you, before we get out of here, can you let us know where we can read more about your writing? You have excellent writing out there. I've read a lot of them. Where can we find more about you?
Thank you. You can find all my work at cjr.org/The Observatory.
All right. Thank you so much, Curtis, for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
No
I enjoyed
problem.
it.
All right, guys. We were just talking about climate change with Curtis Brainard. I just want to say that, I'm very grateful. I'm not going to do a long closing. All I got to say is, if you don't know something, seriously, go out there and read about it. Don't just watch YouTube videos. Don't just go out there and let Fox News. No, I'm not making fun of you, because I do the same thing. We all do. When you should question and you should learn and you should understand your environment, not just when it affects you directly. If you guys really want to know more about what's going on and what could happen to the future of New York, I really highly recommend that you go to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. They have a site. They have a lot of info. I have a printout out here. They show you maps and pictures of what New York City could look like in the future if we do not stop this from getting worse and worse. Thank you, guys. We'll be right back in a few minutes. This was Let Your Voice Be Heard on WHCR 90.3 FM. Whoop, whoop.
I'll be a soldier, fighting every second of the day for your dreams, girl. I'll be your hover. You could be my destiny's child on a scene, girl. So don't stress and don't cry. we don't need no wings to fly. Just take my hand. As long as you love me, we could be starving, we could be homeless, we could be broke. As long as you love me, I'll be your platinum, I'll be your silver, I'll be your gold. As long as you love me, as long as you B.I.G. I don't know if this makes sense, but you're my hallelujah. Give me a time and place, I rendezvous it, I fly you to it, I beat you there. Girl, you know I got you, us, trust. A couple things I can't spell without you. Now we on top of the world, cause that's just how we do. Used to tell me sky's the limit, now the sky's our point of view. Man, we stepping out like whoa, oh God. Cameras point and shoot. Ask me what's my best side, I stand back and point at you. The one that I argue with, feel like I need a new girl to be bothered with. But the grass ain't always greener on the other side. It's green where you water it, so I know.
Hi, this is Flo Wiley inviting you to listen to Black Beat New York every Thursday night at 6. Black Beat New York is all about what's happening on the arts and culture scene in New York City, with a special emphasis on what's going on in the sweet village of Harlem. Celebrity interviews, ticket giveaways, Black Beat weekly events calendar, and I'll play for you some of the finest music you'll hear on the radio anywhere. Every Thursday at 6, Black Beat New York, The Flo Wiley Show.
You can cha-cha-cha to this Mardi Gras. I'm the dopest female that you've heard thus far. And I do get better, the voice gets better, nobody gets hurt,
New York. As long as you let her
do my thing with an 89 swing. The dopeness, alright, I guarantee delight. Until the hip-hop maniac, the uptown brainiac in full effect, MC Light is back. And better than before, as if that was possible. My competition, you'll find them in the hospital. Visiting time, I think it's on a Sunday. But notice, they only...
And we are back. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard on WHCR 90.3 FM radio. What you just heard was a classic throwback song from MC Light, Cha Cha Cha, because... love MC Light. We're going to be talking about women in hip-hop and the role that they play a little later on in the show.
Oh, I thought I missed something.
No. Stanley just played it a little early to get people in the mood of what's coming up next. But right now, it's one of our favorite times. It's the News Roundup. This is where we share and you share with us news articles, things that are funny, silly, just caught your eye over the last week, and what really grabbed your attention. And I just want to start off by saying I read that Boy Meets World is coming back with the original Topanga and Corey Matthews.
Whoa, hold on. I'm happy for you and everything, but if you get my levels up again, we all fighting in here, all right?
Yeah, let me tell you. So it's going to be called Girl Meets World. Topanga and Corey Matthews, they had a baby. She's 13, and now it's going to be like, but get this, because she's going to be the protagonist in the series. But Corey Matthews is her 4th grade teacher, or whatever grade teacher. So it's like it has like a little twist. But Corey and Topanga, come on, who can't get enough?
What about Mr. Feeney? He's not coming back.
I think he's too old.
I'm hyped.
I watched the episode where Topanga was rumored to be pregnant last night, and I was just like, yes, I need more of this.
Topanga.
Topanga. Well,
Topanga.
Yeah.
Boy Meets World was airing again?
Yes, we're making it still. It's going to be Girl Meets World.
No, but you just said that you saw the episode with Topanga supposed to be pregnant.
I watched it on YouTube.
She looked it up.
Remember, Boy Meets World went out. It stopped airing in 1998.
Oh,
and
I thought it was 2000. Whatever.
No, it stopped airing in 1998.
What difference does it make?
Around that time, it was rumored, remember, Topanga and Corey were married, but they didn't have a child. So now they're saying that.
For Halloween, I went back and I also YouTubed the episode of For Halloween that they have where they're like stuck in the school and they're going to everybody's killing off each other. Love that episode. So I'm a big fan. I'm going to watch. And I don't really do a lot of series and shows like that, but I will
definitely
watch.
worth it. If you're a 90s, 80s baby, definitely, you're watching it. Yeah, not 90s.
too.
You guys are too young. Sorry for the 90s.
Oh my God.
babies.
Hey.
I used to really love that show, but you know what I want to see come back? The Wonder Years.
Yeah.
That sounds depressing.
Wendy Cooper.
I
love her.
I loved it too, but it just gives like a
Wendy's
depressing
And
vibe.
Wendy Cooper is
It's
like a
the
really
song.
smart girl, and she writes books.
She writes
Woman,
books
thank you very much.
for
Woman.
girls,
She is a
for
woman.
to love
For
back.
women.
Yeah.
For women. Stop being patriotic.
It says
No,
girls
she writes for
on the
girls.
thing.
Patriotic.
Patriarchic.
Stanley, don't pull a Selena
Don't-
here, okay?
don't do it.
All right, guys, while I'm doing this, Lena, make
Yes,
sure you
Stanley.
call in with your news number is 212-650-6903. We want you to share your stories with us, too, and we might judge you a little bit, but not a lot, promise.
Well, oh my God. No, you got something?
No, I was going to let you go.
Oh my goodness. I was like, looking at the news, and usually like I skip the small news. So this is a hard segment for me because I'm always like, oh, the bigger stuff. But something caught my attention and I just had to click. There's a news that this man, he was just joking around with his buddies and he took a pregnancy test. Like, haha, because I don't know, guys like to pee on stuff they shouldn't have to.
Oh, yeah, he's pregnant,
Yeah.
right?
And it turned out that he was pregnant. So they put it up on Reddit, I believe. And everybody's like, and then people started saying, like, dude, you should get checked. It turns out that pregnancy tests can measure a hormone that men get when they have testicular cancer.
Whoa.
So it just started as a
Damn.
joke. And he put it online, like, hilarious.
LOL.
My friend is pregnant, my guy friend. And it turned out that it was
Wow.
true. He went to the doctor and he was diagnosed. He had testicular
wow.
cancer. That was hard to say.
Speaking of the evolution in science, look at this. Pregnancy test determining a type of cancer in males.
And men. So maybe
That's,
now.
that's kind of
So-
awesome at the same time.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
From
for
now
sure.
That is
on,
not awesome.
when
I
I'm
don't
in-
want to get testicular cancer.
Stanley, you need to go pee on a
now you
pregnancy
know.
test right now,
I'm
Stanley.
never getting
Self
tested
check,
ever
man.
again.
Guys,
never.
go check.
Stanley, you wouldn't pee on a pregnancy test?
It's Movember, okay, and I'm growing a mustache just to make sure that I, go down and show some my solidarity to my fellow guys who maybe suffer from testicular cancer. Grow your
Aw.
beard out. It's Movember. Everybody's doing it. It's great.
I
If you're
wish
a
I
dude.
could do it, but
Women
I
are growing out other parts.
Oh,
I saw it on Twitter. Holla back.
Oh,
I saw that on Twitter November 1st.
Whoa.
So, hey, it's a movement.
I don't know.
If that didn't creep you out, you can follow us on Twitter at BeHeard_radio or share your story with us. Well, I'm sorry, Selena got me so flustered with that last comment. growing
speaking
below the waist
of
mustaches.
growing out our private areas,
Dun, dun, dun.
Durex condoms, they actually released a very clever ad in which they tied in the buzz around the presidential election. So what they have in the ad is Michelle Obama and Ann Romney both like demonstrating like with their hands, and they're
Wait, the real Michelle Obama?
yeah,
and Anna
Michelle. Yes. Okay. So they were both giving speeches, but they looked like they were like measuring like some type of item with their hands. So underneath the caption of the picture, it says, hold on, I got it right here. The difference between Obama and Romney is, and you see Michelle Obama with her hands wide like a yardstick, and you see Ann Romney like pinching her fingers.
Oh no!
It's a brilliant ad, but of course it's raising a lot of eyebrows, and Durex condoms is getting a lot of heat.
Well, Michelle Obama raises something for me all the time. Well, I'll talk about that in a quick.
Stanley, that's
Stanley,
the
she's
first
the
lady.
first lady.
You took it to the next level, okay?
She's my
Durex
first lady,
condoms
too.
can do it.
All right.
I don't know about Durex. I always find they run small.
Yeah,
They
I don't know
they're
anything
not
about
quite
that
the
though.
same. Yeah, they don't use the same
They're not
size
quite the
measurement
same.
as Trojan.
But if you
Not
haven't
quite
seen
the
that
same.
ad, it's probably because it's only it was in China. That's why it was in a foreign country. It was in a foreign country, so that's probably why you didn't see
But
it.
speaking of condoms, General Petraeus, did I get his name right?
Yes,
he
you did.
is stepping down from the CIA because he got caught having an affair with his biographer.
Yup. Oh yeah, and the
Wow, she
biography.
wanted the inside story.
No,
He
the
got her inside
biography
story.
is called All In. So last night on SNL, Seth Meyers was like, yeah, before they really started getting it on, they were calling it just a tip. That's what Seth Meyers said. That's what Seth Meyers said yesterday on SNL, and I cracked up laughing.
you know what? I never cared about General Petraeus, and now I kind of want to read their biography.
I always
published?
admired him.
I don't really care about him, but oh my god,
I'm sure there's some very fine detail.
There really are.
Fine
I wanna
detail,
get
if you get what I'm saying.
In-depth story. I want the nitty gritty.
Well, speaking of in-depth, and since we have Carlos here.
Oh, this is the first time I'm bringing up some news.
In-depth.
Well, no. But I have a question.
Yes,
now that
please.
a lot of cabinet members are actually stepping down
Yes.
from Obama's cabinet the second time around, including Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Eric Holder might leave.
Maybe.
That's
Tim,
Maybe?
Tim Geithner is also leaving.
That's
Tim
all right.
Geithner? Yeah, like what?
Look, the what's so crucial right now is not so, and I'm gonna actually kind of bridge it with what's going on right now in the news, and the biggest news that you could possibly pay attention to in the coming weeks until at least December 31st is the fiscal cliff. You know, last year after that debt ceiling debacle that we had,
Right.
we did not actually reach a formal compromise on taxes.
Sorry, 1 second, Carlos. Selena, I'm going to kill you if you don't stop banging on the mic.
I kicked
I'm going to kill
I'm
you.
sorry.
Stop making noises, please.
There's a ghost. I thought it was a
I love
ghost in
you.
here.
Oh, well, you know,
Go ahead.
Whenever I talk about the fiscal cliff, there's a little bit of an eerie silence and
Right.
bad things start happening. But we never
I'll give you
reached
some music.
we never reached a formal compromise on taxes. And with this election and what it actually means for the electorate and what it means for Republicans is the necessity to compromise.
Good.
But there is a little bit of hesitation. We're still in the 112th Congress. They're in the lame duck session.
Oh yes.
And
Lamest
they from sources that are gathered in D.C., there is still a little bit of fragmentation between the Tea Party committee and the mainstream
I
Republicans.
can't believe that they're a real thing.
They are.
I know.
But you know what was so I didn't support Obama initially when I first started working for that campaign, and
Yeah, I wasn't an Obama fan last election either.
It's not even that I
didn't vote for him.
I loved him in the first election. You know, he really was the candidate that I actually wanted to be if I ever ran for office. But you know, now he's just a real person doing the real job that he's supposed to have. He's the president. He has to lead. He has to delegate. And he has to make sure he makes bridges between the Republicans and the Democrats. And they need to form some form of pathway to reduce the deficit. And that's why this fiscal cliff is so important, because right now we have the Bush tax cuts.
Let them expire.
You like that music, huh?
I do. This is just.
Oh, this is Inception right here. It's a dream between a
This
dream.
is a policy within the policy.
Get the smoke machine.
Well, you have the Bush tax cuts gone.
Woo.
If we don't reach a compromise,
Yeah.
we have payroll insurance gone. You have this thing called it's an extra tax on middle class families. It's just a basic correction in a tax code. If you're making anywhere less than $75,000, your taxes go up because there is no money. There is no action.
Wow.
But the deficit is so large. We owe so much money that our system naturally corrects itself. So we need to find, and this goes to Republicans, this goes to Democrats. We need to find some way to actually start bringing in some revenue into the system.
Wow.
We can't keep on spending on our social programs on the credit card.
We can't. And there you had it, right here on Let Your Voice Be Heard. Eerie music included. Breakdown of what's going on with the fiscal cliff. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you.
And when we get this music off, I have some more news.
Can I give a quick shout out if you don't mind, guys? We've spoken a lot about Occupy Wall Street and why we don't necessarily support the
You
things
guys don't
they're
support
doing.
Occupy?
Of course I
no,
support
no,
Occupy.
It's not
I'm
that
the
we don't
official Occupy
support
supporter
it,
here, and they all
it's-
make fun of me.
it's
I love
just
it too.
because
Well,
the
you have an ally
the
here.
agenda isn't clear enough for some of us in the room.
No, absolutely.
However, since Sandy, Occupy have been one of the first groups to step up.
Oh yeah.
They've been working harder than I think they worked since we first heard about Occupy. And I just want to give a shout out to Jacques Leandre, who is running for City Council District 31, which covers Rockaway, Laurelton, Cambria Heights, Rosedale, and other parts of South Jamaica, Queens, because he lost last election and he's still going. He's running again in 2013, so good luck. I can't
Shout
vote
out
'cause
to your congressman.
I changed my address, so I can't vote for him.
It's
And
all
he's
good,
super
Kwanzaa.
awesome. But him and Occupy, Sandy, shout out.
Yeah, I saw
to
them on Twitter yesterday.
And, shout out to everybody who saw that their communities weren't being served in, my hometown, Coney Island. And Far Rockaway, who I did share a district with and help campaign out there, and Staten Island as well, because they're not getting the support. So what the community decided to do was take it into their own hands. And, of course, Erica Ford,
Love
we were
her.
out there yesterday, had
Love
John
her.
Legend out there yesterday in Rockaway. I just have to lend my support to you guys and just keep on doing the good work, because eventually FEMA will get out there and eventually they'll get the help that they need. Eventually.
Listen, guys, I don't care about FEMA. We're not waiting on FEMA. If you're at home right now listening to this show, if you're on the road listening to the show, if wherever you are listening to the show, there is something that you can do. There is something that the 4 or 5 of us in here can do, and we're going to do it. If you care about anything at all, I always say this, if you care about anything at all, I don't care what it is. It could be a speck on the floor. It could be your favorite video game. It could be your favorite cup of coffee. If you care about anything at all, you are forced. It is your duty to do something.
Yes.
Because if you care, you can't sit and watch as everything you love gets washed away. We have people right now who are suffering, and it's not their fault. It's not from them being irresponsible. It is our job to help. We shouldn't just wait on the government. We shouldn't just wait on a big Superman, Barack Obama, or whoever you think is your Superman to come save the day. We are the leaders and the heroes, so let's get to work.
Definitely. Yes, we can, Stanley. And Carlos with that
now
slogan.
I'm scared. I'm like, I don't want to go there if he's going to be there.
No,
that's been a lot of... this matters a lot to me. We really, really need to help. And there's a lot of people, actually negative reaction out there. Like, I was actually discussing with a guy who was telling me, like, oh, I don't even see what's the point of helping these people. There's people in India. And I was like, if you can't help your own neighbor, you're not going to travel 6,000 miles to help anybody else. Oh, yeah. You're not going to do it. I was like,
that doesn't make
sense.
It's like
compassion doesn't really have a, like, oh, these people deserve more than me. And if you're, like I said, if you're not going to go in your backyard and help somebody, your neighbor, you're not going to do it in another country.
Definitely. And just to throw this out there, Obama will be back in town this Thursday. Is it Jersey or is it New York City? He's coming back to deal to help with the Hurricane Sandy relief efforts. So shout out to our president, reelected, the POTUS, holla. But not everyone is hollering back for the president. Just to throw out some more news, this one lady, she's 22 years old. She's from California. Her name is Denise Helms. She actually put a very racist remark on Facebook that got her fired, and it got her a lot of press coverage. Wow. What she wrote is that, and I'm quoting, another 4 years of this N-word, and then she wrote, maybe he'll get assassinated this time. And then, the shocking thing was, when she was on camera, when she had an interview, she was like, look, if he, thank you, Stanley, the reporter asked, what if he does get assassinated? She was like, you know what? I wouldn't dwell on it. I really wouldn't care. And then they finally got to, well, you called him the N-word. And she was like, yeah, I do kind of reference him as the N-word, but I'm not racist. I do have multicultural friends.
Oh, the classic, I have black friends.
I was like, what?
Come on, but no.
You guys don't know about the time that she gave Andre $5 for his weed, all right? You just need to know. No, she's an idiot, honestly.
No, she definitely
she's an idiot. And, I hope she gets put in jail for a couple of days and, like, a group of black girls, like, scare her.
Oh my
Don't
God.
beat her up. Just scare her. Like, get her in the corner, like, hey, you don't like black people? And then when she gets really scared, just walk away like nothing happened.
Secret Service is now investigating into Denise Helms.
Well, somebody put her in a headlock real quick. Wow. She's an idiot.
Definitely. She was like, I don't care. Like,
all right.
It's what it is.
Don't care. Yeah.
I was just shocked.
I just wouldn't wish that on anybody. Exactly. I was not a fan of Bush. I was insane. Like, oh, somebody go kill him? That's terrible. Why would I wish that on anybody?
The level of antagonism that that is being shown towards this president is obscene. Bush. Yeah. I can say
it's a threatening type of antagonism, right? Yeah. It's not just dislike.
Bush did get his butt kicked by the left. There's no denial that there was hyperbole to the left. He was called dumb. We got to meet Bush. My family.
I have proof.
We were privileged. We were privileged enough to actually get to meet the president, and he's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy. He's just some guy who was elected, and he just happened to be one of the worst presidents we've ever had. But
he was nice about it.
He was kind of. He had his little Texas swagger.
I agree. I always got the impression that Bush was kind of nice to drink a beer with.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of laid back, much more laid back than Mitt Romney, who doesn't even drink. But I mean, that doesn't mean anything. But I'm just saying, kind of.
God didn't want him to drink. So you know what? Are you going to question God? Because God did not want him to drink. He would lose his magical underwear.
What? Okay, Stanley.
Oh, God.
On that note, we're going on a break. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard right here on Whcr 90.3 FM radio. Keep tuning in because we're going to be talking about women, their role, and hip-hop.
Mm-hmm.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Hi, this is Sister Virginia Cotton, and I'll take you to that place every Tuesday morning from 6 to 10 in the a.m. on the Gospel Legends program. We'll lift the Savior and take a trip down memory lane. How far back will I go? Tune in on Tuesday morning, WHCR 90.3 FM from 6 to 10 in the a.m. And don't forget the website. That's the 3Ws.WHCR.org. I'm so excited.
Greetings. This is Honey from Harlem 411. Tune in to Harlem 411 Friday nights at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for information on health, education, housing, community events, and more. Harlem 411 serves information to you with the opportunity to call in with your questions. Harlem 411, produced to serve the community's needs. Let us serve you with information. Friday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Harlem 411.
Come on.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make me. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex for now. To the people at home or in the crowd, it keeps coming up anyhow. Don't be coy, avoid, or make void the topic, cause that ain't gonna stop it. Now please talk about sex on the radio and video shows.
That was the legendary Salt and Pepper, iconic female rappers in the game. Just iconic rappers. I don't even need to add like the female part in it. Like, they changed the 90s. They talked about sex, of course. That was their song, Let's Talk About Sex. They talked about HIV awareness. I mean, they just, one thing that they really did, they kind of like objectified males to a different degree that we weren't used to.
But not just them. Let's talk about TLC. I mean, everybody remembers them as an R&B group, but Left Eye was a rapper on that group.
Oh, you're right.
And they talked about the song, I think it was called Ain't Too Proud to Beg or something like that, where it was, it empowered women to say, listen, I do enjoy sex and I like sex, and you can, if you don't satisfy me, I think that's what really became that big push of like, I need to be satisfied. If you're not doing your job, you can get the boot.
And hip-hop was the vehicle in which these women were allowed to voice either their sexuality, their opinions, political consciousness, whatever was going on, whatever was on their mind. Hip-hop is what gave them the platform to let the world know this is what's going on with us.
Absolutely.
So, and that brings me straight into my topic here that I've been so excited about for a long time.
She really has.
I really have.
She's been talking about this for weeks, and I'm excited.
So, as a hip-hop fan and a consumer, hip-hop is close to my heart. I feel that it speaks to me and reflects the multi-layer essence of my makeup, which is fun, carefree, smart, but also thought-provoking and socially conscious. However, at the same time, there are many aspects of the music that I am uncomfortable with, such as the overwhelming lyrics and images of female objectification, as well as the lack of female voices within the culture in our present time. So hip-hop has evolved into an international phenomenon that transcends cultures. However, it lacks a very important and crucial aspect in America, and that's a diverse and healthy presence from women in the mainstream. But if we take it back from like the 70s and 80s, from its conception, women played a strong and multifaceted role in shaping hip-hop. When females rocked the mic back in the 80s, it wasn't about sex appeal. It was about lyrics and proving that you had talent, and they were respected for that talent. A perfect example is Roxanne Shante. I was watching a documentary last night, and she was like, look, when I had a show, sometimes I wore the clothes that I had on from that day. I got up there, I rocked the mic. We also know that in 1984, her claim to fame was a diss record at male MC's UTFO. That showed her boldness. It showed her fearness. It showed that, look, I'm a girl, but I could rock the mic. And she was, of course, respected for it. Following that, we had, like, a ton of women, countless women that came out rocking the mic, but also infusing female empowering messages into their lyrics. Now, of course, everyone thinks of Queen Latifah, UNITY. Who you calling a B? Like, I still get so hype off that song. And you had
that is a good song.
And you had Yo-Yo. And I mean, okay, so she was co-signed by, West Coast rapper Ice Cube, and she was on Death Row, but she was still fearless. She was still saying, like, you don't try to play me out. Like, don't try to, don't try to get up on me. Don't try sexual harassment. I'm not with that. I'm here. I have a stance. I have an opinion, and you're gonna hear me. But okay, so now let's just bring it back to the present day. And today's hip-hop scene, the industry is defined primarily by black male sensibility that suggests that a woman's role is mainly to be eye candy. When you watch a hip-hop video, the women you see gyrating and hardly any clothing. And it's just sexual objectification to the 19th power.
They don't have a voice. They don't have a presence in it.
Yes.
They're just there. Like, they're objects, actually, pretty much.
And even the female artists are not really helping the cause. You see Nicki Minaj on some God knows what spandex thing that she's wearing. Look, as a guy, I mean, she's attractive. I look at Nicki Minaj and I'm like, wow, you're very, like, you're
and that's fine.
You're good looking.
You can.
She's attractive and she's good looking.
I want to say there's one asset that is that really just kind of comes out.
Yes, we got you. We got your drift.
I know. Hey, fashion choices aside, I don't
Somebody
even
point
concern
me
that.
out to the best either.
But the thing is, like, and this is the inner conflict that I struggle with Nicki Minaj, because she's multifaceted as well. Like, you have a lot of her lyrics are female empowering.
Oh, yeah.
She lends herself to vulnerability. She talks about her insecurities, just like Marilyn Monroe. She talks about the struggle. She identifies and is very aware that she's a female and she's in a male-dominated industry, but she's broken so many obstacles. She's broken down barriers. Yes, she used sexual exploitation in order to get there. And Stanley, I'm going to throw it to you. But before I ask you, I just want to throw this question out. What did you expect her to do? It's 2012. She's been signed to one of the most misogynistic labels in hip hop, Cash Money Crew. How did you expect Young Wayne's first female artist to look?
That sounds like a brothel.
I'm gonna jump.
Doesn't it? Cash Money Crew? Oh, come on.
Well, besides the fact that Lil Wayne and most of the
job.
people who work for him are idiots, in my opinion, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about what Nicki Minaj did. I'm going to say that she didn't have to do that. And if you think hip hop is misogynistic now, go back to the 80s when it was even worse. But you know what? There was a young lady by the name of Roxanne Shante who I've been talking about all week.
And that I just brought up and gave props to.
Yes, who she came into the game and she didn't come in talking about having sex. She came into the game responding to a song called Roxanne Roxanne, where the guys were mad because the girl wouldn't give him any play. And she responded and she talked about something that Patricia is very, she speaks out about a lot in street harassment and about how the guys are getting mad at her when they didn't approach her the right way. And you know what? That song put her on the map. Or when TLC in 89 did No Scrubs, talking about guys that didn't have anything to talk about. That put them on the map. Or when they did Unpretty. Or when, Salt and Pepper, when they were talking about Let's Talk About Sex. Or Lauryn Hill put out the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It's been done before, Selena. You can't tell me that, Nicki Minaj had no choice. It's been done before. And, as great as Nicki Minaj is, like, I'm not going to be sit here and say, oh, it's so hard, because it's in misogynistic world. If you make good music, you make good music. Because a couple years ago, a guy like Drake with his singing, tripping, tearing his ACL behind, wouldn't have made it into the game. But now he's got this whole hybrid rapping thing going crazy.
Wow, thank you for that, Stanley. Like I said, we're going to be talking about hip-hop and feminism with Selena. And if you guys have any questions or comments, actually, I think this is a segment that is really more comments. Call us at 212-650-6903. And listen, I am not a Nicki Minaj fan. I do not defend her for anything. I say, take accountability for your actions. But the music industry in general, and I'm not even just talking hip hop, has really changed, not just for men, but also for women drastically. The 80s and 90s were a different era. There was like the whole girl band, boy band thing. It was okay. That became very cool. There was a whole grunge thing going on where you can wear all this dark stuff, and it impacted all the music genres. So it was different. Now it's a more overly sexual thing. Look at even female artists that are not hip hop from the 90s, like Alanis Morissette, Meredith Brooks. They got famous Fame is talking about, women empowerment and being vulnerable. Jewel, all these women, they didn't have to stomp around in a bikini. Now look at Britney Spears. Look at what happened. Look what they did. They tried even to do to Mandy Moore, who's like, the most virginal little pop singer ever. And they tried. They really did. Christina Aguilera. So it's something that is not just related to hip hop. It really has the entire industry. Even country singers that were known for not being sexual are now being very objectified. It's a different era. It's not as easy as it used to be.
Taylor Swift actually can,
she's straddling that line.
But she is in that fine line, and I think she's still getting there.
She's getting there.
She's getting there. She's getting big, but there is a fine line on it. And
look
I
at
do
Miley
see,
Cyrus, though.
But I do want to see where we take this conversation because
Yeah.
feminism in the entertainment industry is, I think, the future of general empowerment.
Well, now that's a fully charged statement that we definitely need to dig more into after this break. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard. We're talking about women in hip hop. We're talking about their role, what they do, and if they even have a presence. I know it's not good enough for me. We're going to talk about it a little more when we get back from this break. Stay tuned.
Sing on acapella. We're gonna make you lose control and let it go, for you know you're gonna hit the flow. I rock to the beat till I'm higher. The walk in the club is fire. Get it crunk and wired. Wave your hands, scream louder. If you smoke, then fired up. Bring the roof down and holler. If you tipsy, stand up. DJ, turn it louder. Take somebody by the waist and now throw it in their face like hypnotic, robotic. This here will rock your bodies. Take somebody by the waist and now throw it in their face like systematic, ecstatic. This hit be automatic. Do it right. Everybody here. Get your backs off the wall, 'cause misdemeanor said so. Everybody here get it out of control. 'Cause misdemeanor said so. Everybody steps, everybody kicks, everybody steps, everybody get loose.
Let's go to church. Let's go to church.
It's Morning Praise with Dalton Anderson. Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Listen and enjoy the best in contemporary, traditional, quartet, gospel comedy, holy hip hop, and gospel house music. With the man who knows how to wake and bake and shake you right out your gospel beds. It's Morning Praise with Dalton Anderson. Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. on WHCR 90.3 FM. Let's go to church.
And we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard, which is every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 90.3 FM WHCR The One. Wow.
Voice of Harlem. You said that all in one breath. Congratulations, Stanley.
Yeah, that's not good because I can't breathe through my nose right now. So
I know, he's sick. Well, we started things off. The conversation already got pretty heated. We're talking about women in hip-hop, the role that they play. Stanley threw some things out that is very debatable. But right now, we have on the line with us to help give us some perspective and some insight into this conversation. We have Rosa Clemente, who is a hip-hop activist, a lecturer, a journalist. On top of that, she was the 2008 vice presidential candidate for the Green Party. Thank you so much, Ms. Clemente, for joining us here at Let Your Voice Be Heard. Okay, so let me just fill you in. And let's just take it from here. Now, we automatically started talking about Nicki Minaj.
You did.
I did.
I brought her up.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Carlos brought her up. And that's where the fire came from. Okay, so before Carlos brought it up, we were talking about hip-hop in the 80s, how we had Roxanne Shante and how her presence and basically her message had to do with, it was like lyrically based. It wasn't about sex appeal. It wasn't about, how you looked. It was all about what you can do on the mic. And now, when we look at present day and we contrast, it's a huge difference where we have Nicki Minaj, who's this, she's a celebrated figure in pop culture, but of course, she definitely does play up the hypersexualization in hip-hop. Right. And the fact of the matter is she's female, so she gets more scrutiny for talking about sexual lyrics and talking about sex when every hip-hop artist does that. So, Ms. Clemente, if you can just give some perspective and just kind of answer the question of, is Nicki Minaj, in her presence, is she doing more harm and hurt for females in the game? Or is she simply just kind of following the trend of talking about sexualization, and it's just the dynamic of the fact that women are objectified, so she's sort of like playing up that objectification?
Well, I mean, I think first people have to have an understanding of what hip-hop culture is. So obviously we're talking about one element of the culture, the rapping industry element. Well, let me say, we're talking about one element in the culture, right? Since there's 5 elements to hip-hop, people argue that in the future there will be more added. With that being said, we're talking about a rapper. So, I think simply Nicki Minaj is an actress who's a good rapper. And I think that's what Drake is. And I think a lot of people who participate in the industry of rap music, the commodification of that, I don't see Nicki Minaj any different than Britney Spears. So, to me, the sexualization of women is not just something Nicki Minaj is putting forward, or that Little Kim was lambasted in the early 90s for doing it. We live in a sexualized culture. Most women who are entertainers have to use some form of sexuality to get across. Now, within the rap industry and the commodification of rap and sex, right, together, well, Nicki Minaj at this moment might be the most glaring example. To me, Nicki Minaj, again, is a rapper, a recorded artist in the studio who performs. I don't see her as to me, personally, I don't see her that important in the large scale of hip-hop culture. Mm-hmm. But I know that the images that she's portraying may not be empowering to specifically young girls, so... that I don't really. I mean, I know there are people right now that are even doing dissertations on Nicki Minaj, and I understand when people want to have a discussion about it. But I often think when we talk about hip hop, this is the most discussion we have, and that's not how I view the culture. Through the lens of a Nicki Minaj, understanding what her images can mean destructively, but maybe for women over 21. Can be empowering. So, I think that's like the larger kind of discussion we have to have when we're talking about how gender plays out in hip-hop culture.
Definitely. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Rosa Clemente, who is a hip-hop activist, a hip-hop feminist, journalist, and also she was the 2008 vice presidential candidate under the Green Party. If you have a comment, we're talking about women in hip-hop. Call in right now, 212-650-6903. So now, Rosa, I mean, you definitely made a great point. It's hip-hop is not, it just can't be looked upon through the lens of Nicki Minaj. And, it can be taken with, some good and some bad, what she's actually doing. But the fact of the matter is she is changing the game, and she is the strongest female voice that we have in the game.
No, she's not the strongest female voice we have. She's the strongest female voice that the media is telling us we have.
Mainstream-wise.
Absolutely. Is telling us we have, right? So, especially because, this is 90.3, a Harlem institution. I think people would have a very different view. Now, when we're talking about women in hip-hop, we can't just, again, this whole idea that hip-hop is focus on that one element of rap music or the MCs in the culture. You know, like, if you're saying women in hip-hop, well, then let's talk about the B-girls. Let's talk about the graph artists. Let's talk about the political people, the journalists. I mean, we can name 500 women right now in the next hour that are part and parcel of the entire creation of hip-hop at every level that still function in a space that's empowering. You know, so sometimes let me say this, I think younger folks need to have a very different discussion and understand what hip-hop actually means, and understand then why then does Nicki Minaj supposedly become the one female rapper? I mean, tonight I'm about to go to Boston to see one of the greatest MCs in hip-hop ever, Lauryn Hill.
Yes.
Where is she in the discussion?
Definitely.
Or, you know, like, so these, and again, Lauryn is a rapper. She's not participating in the other elements where women continue to strive and break barriers in the larger 5 elements of hip-hop culture. So we have to think about, why then is Nicki Minaj palatable? Why is she not only in rap industry, she's part of the entire mainstream culture of what entertainment is now and how women partake in it? If you look at it like that, then you're going to see that Nicki Minaj, again, I can name you 20 other women in the music industry that play the same function as a Nicki Minaj do, a sexualized being that really is there for merely the entertainment and the pleasure of not only men, but women as well.
And I definitely get your point.
Oh, yeah.
Point well taken. The only thing that I want to add to is the fact that it's, you know, Lauryn Hill dominated the 90s. She made timeless hip-hop, timeless classic rap, and everyone respects her. But the new generation coming up, you know, unless they're checking for her, and they pretty much are, but that's not what's on their main screen. And the fact
and that has to do with the media. That's the whole point.
Yes.
Right? That, like, what is Hot 97 choosing to play? It's really not Hot 97 as much as it is their corporation, Clear Channel, dictating what 10 rap songs they're going to play. Why is 2 Chainz even out here with this non-authentic aura that he puts forward when he went to college and graduated with a 4.0? Yes, he did. You see what I'm saying? So, like, the Hot 97 and even when Kiss FM was around, when you look at media in general, unless you're looking at like an independent station like 90.3 or Pacifica or other kind of independent outlets, you're kind of stuck with the 3 major corporations, Clear Channel, MS, and Viacom. They own 90% of radio stations in this country. Viacom owns MTV, which owns BET, which owns VH1, which is about to own Fuse. So what younger folks need to do is have what we call a critical media analysis when they're talking about even the Nicki Minaj. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Rosa, I feel you. Like it is so refreshing to hear, you know, a hip hop activist, somebody who actually can talk about these things, because in my perspective, I work in politics, and part of having that part of having that discussion is to always find a way to empower and change the conversation, change the dialogue. And the one thing that I've noticed is that everybody talks about the game in hip hop. Everybody talks about making money and making sure that making it out and making a good beat, but also making money. And unfortunately, in the music industry, that part of making money is also exploiting certain assets, and part of that exploitation comes into the role of woman. Sex sells.
Yep.
That's why you're talking about large corporate bodies that kind of bring in and funnel in certain musical types and actually push down on certain body types and certain commodities. Nicki Minaj is a commodity, and I think what is crucial, and maybe I want to get your opinion on this one. Do you think we should have a change of dialogue in the way we talk about the game? I think personally that feminism can be the future of hip hop. I think there are enough topics, there's enough of a dialogue, there's enough of a story to bring in feminism and make some seriously great music from it. But
I think first what you say is correct, that we have to have a different type of conversation, especially as it regards gender and sexuality in rap music or hip hop culture. Look, this is America. It's a capitalist country. Anything that can be commodified will be commodified. In rap culture, what is commodified and made sellable, particularly in the United States, is sexuality and criminal behavior. Even if you've never engaged in criminal behavior, you can act like you've engaged it, and then you become authentic in that space. So when we start to unpack and unravel all of this, we understand the systems that in play. You have to understand rap music as an industry. You have to understand there are thousands and millions of women who for 20 years have been calling themselves hip-hop feminists, and who younger sisters may not particularly say, I'm a hip-hop feminist, but in how they react or how they discourse or what they choose to do may put forth, that kind of feminist kind of mystique. Because, look, ever since women are co-creators of the culture, so from the moment there was a sexist or misogynistic behavior in the culture, there's been a woman who's been saying, wait, hold up, this is not right. And there's been interventions like Joan Morgan's book that really coined and brought to us hip-hop feminism, When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost. I think when it comes to discussing hip-hop, we have a lot of people talking about the culture that have not studied the culture that's been around for 40 years. So they're very quick to make those kind of reactionary statements that are often fed, in these public discourses that really don't allow us to have, like, the conversation we're having now, So, that's how I look at it. Again, but to me, look, I look at hip-hop culture as a source of empowerment. Yes. And I'm not going to say it's not misogynistic, it's not doesn't have criminal elements, doesn't have all of this. But I'm also going to say there are feminists, and there are political people, and there's Chicanos, and there's Puerto Ricans, and there's people in New Zealand and Palestine and Australia that engage hip-hop to engage it as a source of political empowerment, but to actually make change in our communities. And lastly, folks got to understand, look, radio station is not going to play a Dead President, Immortal Technique, or a Jean Grey. They're not going to play an Invincible, and they're not going to have someone like me on the radio. Why would they have things on the radio that reaches the masses that actually can make the masses think and empower the masses to go against that type of corporate behavior? They're not going to do that for us.
No, absolutely
not. Just in case anyone's just tuning in, this is WHCR 90.3 FM radio. The number is 212-650-6903. But Rosa, I'm sorry, Stanley, but the only thing that I definitely want to throw in there is, yes, when corporate started taking over hip-hop, that's when you saw less diversity. That's when you seen sort of like a blueprint of what a male rapper has to do or has to be in order to reach mainstream success. Now, underground and the culture itself is much broader, and that's where you still have, like Rosa said, the feminists and the activists, and just a broader horizon and better perspective and understanding of what the essence of hip-hop is and what it's still doing. And my question is, I'm really, really upset by the fact that, because I was actually just speaking with an A&R, and we're speaking about Chief Keef. We're talking about the gang violence going on in Chicago, and the fact that, Def Jam gave Chief Keef and, and Little Reese, I forgot which record deal he signed on, but these rappers, they're young, they're hand-plucked from oppressive environments. Of course, they're talking about everything that they grew up on, which is violence, and they're perpetuating it, and they're selling records. Now, to people in suburbia, this is entertainment. To people in those communities, which are still very oppressed, no educational system, in poverty, these rappers are speaking to them, but they're not empowering them. They're not saying, we should change, we should do this. And that bothers me because the record executives, they know this. And they see that Little Reese was just caught in a video beating up a woman. And yes, last year it happened. And, what happens? What happens when he goes into those meetings and the record labels and the executives understand that, yes, he's getting more press. This could actually, in one way, he's getting negative press, but they're not dropping the artist.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
It brings them money.
Any press is good press.
Yeah.
They're the ones making those choices. First of all, those people, to me, are not the hip-hop mainstream. The people you said are the hip-hop underground are the mainstream.
Yes.
Just because you're not seeing it in the mainstream media doesn't mean that we're part and parcel, if not moving this culture forward. If we hadn't moved this culture forward, it wouldn't almost be 40 years old. People like Keith and 2 Chainz, these are marketing goals for white men who run the industry and white men who are racist, who could give two whatever about how this affects our community. You best believe those white men making those choices and saying, this is the rapper we're going to put forward, are not exposing their own children to this nihilistic type of music. So once you have that understanding, we then flip that discourse to say that even though we know there's systems in play, we've also been oppressed by these systems. Mm-hmm. What do we do within hip-hop to root this out? And that's been happening. So, this whole commodification of rap is because it is a multi-billion-dollar industry that anywhere in the world you can sell something with this particular type of music, this particular type of beat, this particular type of bravado, right? So it offends you because it should offend you, and you're like, why do you market this and choose not to market that? Well, look, yesterday the director of the CIA had to resign because he had an affair. Sexuality sells, maleness that is not ethical sells in this country, and people see that behavior is actually rewarded. And that's the problem with the country, especially when you're dealing with young people, that behavior is often very rewarded, and young people are hip to that.
Rosa, jumping in. This is Stanley, obviously. I've been listening for a while. I wanted to take in more than I put out, and I want to kind of add to this conversation now in regards to some of the comments that you made. And you made some good points where you said the music, for a larger sense, at least what we hear on the radio, is controlled by these big companies. A lot of times, rich, white, Caucasian males.
You can say capitalist patriarchy.
Yeah. Perfect.
And I get where you're coming from, but it would behoove me if I didn't mention that we have a part to play in this as well. And if you've mentioned this already, I apologize. But if Chief Keef is such a bad thing and all these other artists are doing such a bad thing, we can just simply not listen. We can take that step too, because if I'm a label, I don't care if my artist beat up a woman. It's making me money. You could beat up whoever you want to beat up, as long as it doesn't affect my bottom line. But as listeners, as consumers, we can take a stand and say, we're not going to have this. And, you can say that these big labels control all the music, but that's not necessarily true. And I can say this because
a 13-year-old doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, the 13-year-old does have a choice.
Literacy or media literacy. Listen,
I'm inclined to disagree with you.
Wait. I'm from New York, right? So what happens every morning in New York City, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Hot 97 or Power 105.1? The main time when young people getting ready on their way to school, mom is getting ready to go to work, they're just listening to the radio. You could walk down 42nd, you could walk down Fulton, you could walk down Rockaway, and all you're going to ever hear coming out of all these businesses is either Hot 97, Mega, La Mega, which is sexist and misogynistic radio as well, and 105.1. You're 10, 11, 12. You're being exposed on a daily level consistently to this music. If you're 18, if you're 21, if you're our age, 21, I'm not y'all age, y'all are younger, 40, of course I have a responsibility and a choice. But a 9-year-old who's on the bus on the way to school is being exposed to that, and nobody's breaking down why that music may not be the best for them. So I'm all about personal responsibility, but in understanding personal responsibility, we have to understand the systems at play.
I understand that, but here's my thing, and maybe it's just for me, but it came across as you made it seem that there was just no choice in the matter, and even at 10, 11 years old, you can still choose to not listen to something. It can be all around you. You can still choose. There's an option. It's not easy, but it can happen. And one second, Rosa. I'm not saying it's easy,
Rosa. Adult behavior.
Rosa, I'm not saying it's easy. What I am saying though is that there's always an option. And what I'm also saying is that these mainstream industries don't necessarily control everything. Look at rappers like Joe Budden and Slaughterhouse.
You're not hearing what I'm
Well,
saying.
let me just finish my point.
All right.
Look at groups. Look at rappers like Joe Budden and Slaughterhouse, where
I don't
they
look
got
at
no.
those rappers.
Well,
I
okay.
don't care.
Well, I'm giving an example, so that's great for you.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, they weren't getting any major label attention, and they started to put out their own music through their own means. And what happened? They got a buzz on their own through social media and online music, purchases, and now they're making their own money as legitimate artists, and they didn't have to use a major label. I'm not saying they're a perfect example of what you or anyone else should think that hip-hop is, but I am saying it's possible, and that we shouldn't just look at it one way. We should look at it through all ways. And yes, it's not easy,
But that's
especially
not what
as
I
a younger...
said. You're misconstruing what I say. We're
All
having a discussion about women in hip-hop.
But
And
weren't we
the
just
first thing
talking...
the first thing I said in having that discussion, specifically about women in hip-hop, right, is that, first of all, hip-hop is not just a rap industry. So we spent a sizable amount of this discussion talking about 5 rappers. They are not hip-hop culture.
Exactly.
Now, the flip side of that is I understand that these 5 or 10 mainstream rappers, what the influence is. And I understand personal self-responsibility. Hip-hop is the most critical culture of itself out there. All we do in hip-hop is either critique or find a way to move forward. Okay, so you cannot tell me that an 8-year-old knows to turn off that music if they never had the literacy to be taught to turn that off.
I feel you. I really feel you.
I get a 16-year-old, I get an 18-year-old, I get a 40-year-old 50 Cent finally growing up and being like, yo, I need to stop this, and we hold them accountable. But when you're talking about younger people, and this is not my generation, I'm talking about my daughter or whatever. If my daughter had been consistently exposed to the radio just by the mere fact of going to school every day, and I didn't have the literacy as a parent to be like, yo, we need to turn this off.
Yeah.
My daughter would be in a very precarious situation. But let's be real. A lot of these kids that consistently are listening to the music are also young kids that have to consistently take care of themselves. Parents don't have the opportunity to have this type of discussion that we're having for almost a half an hour for even 5 minutes with their kids. So I think part of that onus is also the parental kind of responsibility. But then I also understand that some parents are like 20-year-olds raising 5-year-olds.
Yup.
And that's a whole
Thank
thing.
you.
That's a whole nother. That's not even the topic for this.
Right.
So.
Hey, Rosa, this is Patricia. I've been listening in, trying to keep everybody calm here. But, I take everything to heart. I didn't grow up so much with hip hop. But, you brought up you're talking about La Mega and so sexist. I grew up in a house where my parents were working all the time. So that stuff was on because the neighbors had it on. And as a kid, I would listen to it. And even I felt objectified. I felt like this is something that I want to be. It was something that made me feel that I should be that. So it was like, as a kid, I was a very, very vigilant, very smart kid. But you know what? It really does affect it. And I feel for what you're talking about, young girls. We do have a choice. I had a choice, and I definitely decided that that's not the lifestyle I wanted.
Right.
But many years, I felt that it should have been my lifestyle.
Yes.
So I commend you, and we talk about this. The same thing with magazines. So, I'm definitely for you, and I understand.
Yeah, and when we talk about women, let me just say this. We live in a completely sexist and misogynistic society. Okay, whether it's women being oppressed in hip-hop, women being oppressed in corporate media, women being oppressed, period. We just came out of an election where the reason many women voted for President Obama was because this party, the Republican parties, were so retrograde in their response to us as women, our sexuality, our reproductive rights. So we cannot be fooled in thinking in 2012 that women are even on an equal setting in any aspect in the society, particularly the entertainment industry and politics. So we always have to look at, that's why women in hip-hop. Right, but it's such a larger discussion about the unequal, unequitable, misogynistic, sexist society that we as women, whether we're listening to opera, we ain't listening to nothing, whether we're rich, poor, whatever, are still dealing with and how that manifests in this larger society.
Sister Rosa, you are awesome. I love you. Seriously, I
feminist crush over here.
Oh my God, I love you so much.
Disagree. I'm all about I like how y'all are rolling because we have to be able to disagree with each other in a very healthy way.
Right. Yes, we definitely do.
Right. Yes, Stanley.
Yeah, Rosa, can you just tell how can our listeners hear more and find out more about you and the movements and everything that you've been doing in the hip hop community?
Well, first, thank you for having me on. This is legendary radio, and I'm always grateful, and I miss New York so bad right now. I'm actually in the process of getting my doctorate, so I'm not as active as I've been, but I'm at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, becoming Dr. Clemente, and cats can reach me on Facebook or Twitter, and, we'll be out there in 2016, hopefully running again for the Green Party. So I hope that
you got my vote.
Something different. Hit me up.
Thank you so much. That was Rosa Clemente. So let your voice be heard. We just finished wrapping up a discussion on women in hip hop. I'm just going to leave you with this. The music industry, as you just heard, it's about making money. It's about capitalizing, and they capitalize off of exploitation. If you are over 18 or over 21, you have the consciousness to make better decisions and to influence the younger generation around us. Let's take that responsibility for us that know better. Let's do better.
Could I just say one quick thing? Immoral Technique actually summed up very well. If you make it platinum, it's not really luck. It's just that 1 million people who are listening to that one record, they're just stupid as bleep.
So we're coming back to the quickies. Let your voice be heard. Keep tuning in.
Always want to take it to the full out extent. Always want to make it seem like good intent. Never want to face it when it's time for punishment. I know you don't want to hear my opinion. There come many paths and you must choose one. And if you don't change, then the rain soon comes. See, you might win some, but you just lost one. You might win some, but you just lost one. You might win some, but you just lost one. You might win some, but you just lost one. You might win some, but you just might win some, but you really lost.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Hi, this is Maurice Watts, better known as The Voice, and your radio host of The Love Zone, reminding you that this Friday night, I need you to stop on by my place, The Love Zone, from 8 p.m. until the stroke of midnight, where you will hear some of the best R&B love songs of today and yesteryear. That's right, we take you from 1948 and bring you all the way up to the present, baby. Been serving you your love for over 22 long years, so hey, mark your calendar. This Friday at 8, you and I have a date. I'll see you there.
For each other.
We are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM WHCR, the voice of Harlem. And you guys got me on the air right now. I'm going to do this in 2 minutes, make it real quick. If you didn't catch up, it was your fault. That's what I told the ladies. That's what I told the ladies. You know how I do.
Ladies man, stand the man, the ladies man.
Like, did we start? I already finished.
I said you should go over today.
Give us a little more, Stanley.
Yeah,
listen,
please.
I have a sore calf and I'm winded, so, I forgot my pills at home. My medicine, Advil, of course, you perverts. All right, so we're doing a quickie, and we're talking about the presidential election. And as you guys may already know, Barack Hussein Obama won re-election for another term against Mitt Romney.
4 more years. 4 more years.
So, I mean, besides, obviously everyone here is pro-Obama, so, we're very happy for the victory. And besides, Obama winning, I want to talk about, just mention 2 quick things that you guys may not have known about the election. One is that they have legalized marijuana use in Colorado and Washington State. So if you live in those 2 states, you can smoke weed freely as long as you're the age of 21 years or older. They also legalized marriage, and I know I'm going to mess this one up. Washington State again, and then also I think it is Maine,
Minnesota and Maine
and Minnesota and Maryland. It may go through. They're still counting the votes.
And so, gay marriage, that is.
It's a same-sex marriage.
Same-sex marriage.
Also ratified in Washington State.
Yes, exactly. So those are some really big things. Also, we have our first gay senator, which is amazing. Tea Party took a big hit. They lost 10 seats all together between Congress and House together. Some notable people who lost their spots were Alan West, who I am super excited about. It was a very big election. I don't know if you guys know about it, but at the time it was saying that Obama won the election and they still didn't have the answer for Florida. It just came in yesterday. AP confirmed it, and it's been confirmed by several media sources. Obama also won Florida. So the new count is 336 to 203, I think it is. So that's how much Obama won with the electoral votes. He won the electoral and the popular vote.
Wow.
Mitt Romney won in almost every voter category except for white male and over 50. He won the women vote by double-digit points. He won the Latin vote, which also moved up. Before it was under double digits at around 7 to 8%. It is now at 10%. So now the Latin vote is at 10%. The black vote moved up. 13% of African Americans are voting now. In the 2008 election, 18% of people between the ages of 18 to 29, our generation and more, they came out to vote. This year, it was 19%, which was an amazing thing because many people thought that Obama had lost the enthusiasm that he had before and he was not going to get such a huge voter turnout. Actually, Republicans were counting on that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Carlos is pointing at himself because he was a part of that campaign that helped to get a big push of those voters to come out, including those in Virginia. Carlos, shout out to you.
Thank you.
You are going to go. You want to say something?
I do want to say something. Look, a lot of people say, "Oh, it was your work, your commitment that that got things through." It's not true. It was the work and commitment of the people we had on the field. If we didn't have the canvases that we had, if we didn't have the people who were on the ground, we would have not won this thing. This was really more of a testament of really fine campaigning. People walking outside, knocking on doors, not really getting paid. Many of them were volunteers. Sitting down in phone banks, calling people, getting their voices heard. We just talked to Rosa Clemente. She mentioned that it's true. The Republican Party took a major stance against women. That got people mobilized. It's not about the Obama being the candidate of change anymore. It's about the issues that people care about.
And one
that's
thing
so
to add to that, as Roland Martin was pointing out, people usually vote out of 3 reasons. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's for the campaign, for the campaign person. And the fact that the Republicans purposely tried to suppress voters through voter ID laws, that angered a lot of people. People got revved up and said, "You're not going to take my vote away. We fought for this. We marched for this back in the 60s. And you know what? That got a lot of people to the polls.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of the fun facts I want to save until the end of the quickie, but it got mentioned earlier. I'll say it again. Mitt Romney did not write a concession speech. So if you were like me and you were working all day and you were super tired waiting for the speech, the reason it took so long for Romney to come out was because he did not write a concession speech. So we got to get out of here, guys. Make sure you tune in to Let Your Voice Be Heard every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm going to close off the show with Obama's acceptance speech or victory speech, whatever you want to call it. You can find it on our website, www.lyvbh.com. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be back next week. As always, we love you. And this is Obama and the family.
4 more years.
4 more years. 4 more years.